the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.
G'day, viewers and listeners. It's Ed Fox, and we're back with another great episode of Nashville 2. We've had a lot of great episodes. We're up to about 70-ish, 75-ish episodes. What makes Nashville 2 great is your story. So if you know somebody that should be on Nashville 2, they're Nashville 2, let's tell their story. So somebody that's doing something in the community, maybe a small business owner, maybe a mentor, maybe somebody goes around cleaning up the city, whatever it is. If they've got a story to tell, we'd love to have them on the show and help them tell it, which leads me to my special guest, Jason Elliott of ESP Elliott System Partners. Hey, Jason, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
I am good, and great to have you on the show.
Awesome.
And we're not quite sure how this is going to flow because you and I are just normally used to just chatting and spending about an hour just talking about nothing. So we'll see if we can be kept on track. So Jason and I met through networking, and we've sort of hung out a bit, and he's got, it seems like a system that isn't very interesting to talk about, or phones very interesting to talk about. But you know what? If we didn't have them, not much business going on then.
Very true.
Now, you've always wanted to be a person that installed and sold and helped people with phone systems, I'm sure.
I've always been a person that wanted to help people. I had no idea what the capacity was, whether it was music or through hospitality or through what have you. Like, I love to help people. And that's been the common denominator of my life so far.
Now, are you originally from Middle Tennessee?
I'm originally from North Carolina.
Okay. Whereabouts?
Very, very specific. Catawba County. It's close by Hickory. It's close by Mooresville. And then I would say 35 to 40 minutes from Charlotte.
Okay. Yeah, I know the last one. That's about all I know about North Carolina. But have driven through there lots. Nice country. I mean, doesn't match Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee is way better.
I've definitely fell in love with Tennessee. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, you know what I love about Tennessee more than the playing with a peg here on my finger, like more than I like just the scenery. The people are amazing.
They really are. It is. People talk about a melting pot, in other places, but man, I feel like we have an extreme melting pot. But it's not just a melting pot. I feel like it's a melting pot of good people.
Right.
Like, it is crazy how you can just be walking down the street, or we've got our road ragers. That's going to happen, I think, anywhere you go. But when it comes to just running into somebody, or, hey, you need a helping hand for something, man, this Nashville is fantastic for that. Right. Like, we're blessed with just amazing people.
So how did you end up coming from North Carolina to the Nashville area?
Well, I majored in music education and trumpet performance. So I literally was just eating, breathing, living music for most of my life.
Right.
Majoring in music education, I had to learn how to play most every instrument. I was in several bands, and the guy that was producing the band that I was in college asked me to move to Nashville, and he was going to work with me. So the long story short of it is I did move to Nashville with a friend of mine that was a drummer in the band. And, I started writing. I started really meeting and networking, playing around town, and had a little bit of success, but then hit roadblocks, of course. That's the way the music industry is. But yeah, that's what brought me here. And I have, other than a short stint in England, this has been where I've been, just living in Nashville, and I love it. It's not just for country music. It is for, many things, whether it's Christian or rock, pop, rap, hip hop, whatever. Like, it is once again, the melting pot.
Well, once you start to get that core group of engineers and people that need to work in music, and then the artists need those people to help them produce their stuff, right? So it starts to draw in all genres of music to the city. So that was the thing that was interesting to me when I first got here. I thought, oh, Nashville, country music, but it's all music. Like it's all
It really
here.
is.
So which is cool.
Exactly.
So people I haven't, I learn more stuff every day, and that's one of the reasons I love doing this show, is because I talk to people like you, and they're telling me about different things, different facets of Middle Tennessee that I would never otherwise know about. And we'll get into that in a bit. We call them now hidden gems. But tell me, pardon me, tell me a little bit about what is ESP. And we're not talking about extra sensory perception or whatever that stands for. We're talking about Elliott System Partners. And,
Yes, sir.
And how did you start that? Like, oh, I'm just going to do phones, like just out of the blue.
So it is an interesting story. So my father started ESP in North Carolina back in the 90s.
Okay.
Now he called it, and I remember when I was a kid, it was like Elliott Services and Peripherals. So at that point in my life, I was like, what is a peripheral? Like, yeah. I mean, I know my peripheral vision, but what? So my brother and I guess it was we're about to start our third year in the business, and we decided to, well, my father wanted me to originally, I think he wanted me to secretly start working with him once I graduated college, eventually take over the company, and he could retire and drink milkshakes and watch, TV.
Whatever. Yeah.
And clearly that's not the route that I chose to take. So it was several years ago that I reached out and I said, you know what? There's a lot of opportunity here in Nashville, Middle Tennessee. I see a huge need for people, for small businesses to get help in voice over IP phone systems and contact centers and business internet, and have a go-to person to be able to call, contact to if you have a problem or you need help or what have you. So that's the route that, we ended up going. So we created our own LLC here in Tennessee. So, and then we rebranded it, made it, tweaked the logo a little bit, and then we call it Elliott System Partners. And we are strictly focused on not all things business related like my father is in North Carolina. We're really just focused on, your phone systems, contact centers, business internet, and mobile devices as service, which is like mobility management. And we did that because we can be kind of a lean machine, but we're able to extend our footprint through the entire country, throughout the world, and help businesses of any size. So that's how I ended up getting here, and that's how I got into the technology world. And I've kind of always been a kind of a technology nerd. I used to play video games all the time. So building computers, modifying computers. I was just speaking to a guy that specializes in CRMs, and he started talking about macros, and I was like, I know all about macros. Like, it brings back memories, talking about this stuff. So it was really an easy transition to get me into the phone system world. So
right. And what do you find? Because, well, let me ask a different question. What percentage of phone systems in small businesses or large businesses do you think are now voice over IP phone systems as opposed to traditional landline systems?
Honestly, throughout the country?
Well, no, let's just say Nashville. I mean,
in Nashville, I would say probably 70% have moved over into the VoIP land. Have
moved from landline to VoIP.
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And so that's taken, but I would still say that there's a lot of opportunity if those people, like we had 4 office phones that were VoIP. We just get on the internet, we find somebody, we sign up with them, and the stuff arrives and we do it. But we didn't have any local representation. I would think that being on the spot and being able to be called and get help from a real live person in the city that I'm in becomes more powerful, I think, as a customer service tool.
Yeah, it's definitely, there's a great value there for sure. There are even folks that already have a voice over IP system. Most of them, they're not set up properly. What happens is they, one of a couple things, they'll go online and sign up for the first thing that pops up in Google, which doesn't mean that it's the best. It means they spent the most money for marketing.
Right.
So keep that in mind. But yeah, they'll sign up for the first thing that they find. And if they do talk to somebody, they're going to talk to a salesperson, which we all know salespeople. They're going to be really smooth, make the deal sound fantastic. And so then once you sign off, now we get to the nitty gritty. Okay. Right. Now you're going to get that phone call from somebody that you hope you can understand, somebody that, that's probably, it's 2 a.m. their time, and they're trying to communicate. They have no idea about your business. They have no idea what your CRM is, what features are important to you, none of that stuff. They literally are going to set up the absolute bare minimum. They want to make sure your phone rings. They'll port your numbers over and tell you how to set your voicemail up, and goodbye.
Right.
And that's awful, because you're probably paying for so much more, and you have no idea that, oh, the phone system can integrate with my CRM. That would be really cool to know. I've even met with some folks that had a system, and they had, the physical device, what I call paperweights, on their desk. And they had no idea that they were also, they could download an app on their cell phone or their laptop or computer and make and receive the same phone calls and have better features there. Right. Nobody ever told them that. So that's where I come in. I help find the best system, what I feel like would be the best system. And I'm there for the onboarding process. I'm there for implementation to make sure everything goes smoothly. I will sit down and talk to all of the employees. If I'm not able to be there on site, if it's somewhere, if I do a business with some folks in California or Ohio, as much as maybe I would like to go to the Bahamas, I can actually take care of all that stuff virtually. And I can sit down and talk with all the employees and make sure that they understand how the system works and answer questions they have, make them feel comfortable, because most people don't like change. They're scared they're going to lose their phone numbers. They're scared that they're not going to know how to transfer a call and make a fool of themselves. So I am there to try to facilitate and make sure that it's a smooth transition and they feel comfortable with the system and make their lives easier. Their bosses are going to be happier because their employees are happy, Right.
So, yeah. My dad always said that there's only two people that like change: beggars and babies with a wet diaper. They're the only two people that like change. Nobody else likes change. And that's pretty much true. None of us want to deal with something. Yeah. I remember our first VoIP phone service, and it was one of the guys online somewhere, there's Jive, there's 8x8, there's a bunch of them, and I'm sure you work with them all, but have an in-person. And Zoom has made it so easy to connect, right? And be able to help somebody well. If you've got a good personality and good sharing of information and know how to talk to people virtually, I think for me, I always rather do a Zoom than a phone call, because I have a little bit of a hearing loss. And so watching the lips and being able to look at those little micro expressions that, oh, was he joking? Was that sarcasm? Was that intended? All of that sort of stuff. But I know people got tired of Zoom during COVID, but man, it's changed my world. I'm able to do podcasts around the world with people. I love it. So I don't think people should be worried of dealing with you outside the city, because you can do this, but you understand business, you understand American business, you can work with it, virtually anywhere. What have you found is the biggest question that you get asked when people are talking to you about phone systems?
Honestly,
yeah.
One of the most common questions really is, can we keep our numbers? People get really attached to their numbers, and especially if they've had the same system for 18 years and they've never thought about changing. One of the things, and you and I both remember, like, cell phone carriers, they used to hold your number hostage.
Right.
If you remember. So
Yes.
there is still that stigma out there. People haven't changed systems in a while. They don't realize, hey, yeah, we can. You actually do own your numbers. So
Right.
they can't hold them hostage anymore. Like, if you want to take those numbers and move them elsewhere, you can. So that is a question that I get probably the most. The other thing is, people always ask, like, they don't have time to change systems, because it is, even for a really large company, like, it seems a bit daunting, the task. And the really cool thing about it is, we have a system of operations to be able to make it smooth. We can export the data from your current carrier. If you have a VoIP system, typically it's exportable, so we can take that and then upload it. Saves a whole lot of time and a whole lot of me asking a lot of questions. And we're able to kind of make a very, very smooth transition. And it doesn't take a lot of time from the business owner or from the office manager or your chief technology officer. It doesn't take a lot of time from them. It's just a matter of us just getting those files, and then we build the system in the cloud.
Right.
And, if we have questions, we'll reach out, but it's typically not it doesn't take a lot of time from my customers, because we we do all the heavy lifting.
So one of the challenges my dad always had with voice over IP, he was a big gadget guy, built his own computer. He wasn't afraid of technology whatsoever. But he said, the thing I love about a landline is if the power goes out or the internet goes down, the landline still works. Because I kept trying to get him to go to VoIP because it had so many features, and stuff. Do you come across that as an issue anymore?
Well, it's a non-issue. I have people ask that. But now, literally, if the power goes out or if your internet goes out, all you have to do is swipe down on your phone and turn your Wi-Fi off, and you'll be able to answer and make receive calls on your cell phone using the app for your business. So it's business as usual. Your auto attendant, all that stuff's still going to work. You still be able to transfer calls, warm transfer calls. You'll still be able to do your virtual meeting platform, everything. So it's just a matter of, you've got to have cellular service at that point, but you can sit there with the lights out and light a candle and continue business as normal. Right.
Yeah. And that's good to know, because that question, like I said, I think there's some people that still are concerned about that.
Sure.
What is the major reason people change from regular phone service to, and I guess the bigger companies, it used to be PBX, right? Or those sort of systems. What makes them change from that sort of system, or if it's a small business, from one landline or two landlines over to voice over IP? Is it cost savings?
Yep, it's a couple things. So it's funny because most phone companies, they are starting to charge more and more money for those copper landlines,
right?
Because they don't want to deal with them anymore. So there's cost savings, number one. Number two, there's also with VoIP, you don't deal with phone lines. You deal with a user. You only need one phone number, and that one phone number you'll never get a busy signal. The worst you're going to get is, hold music. And as soon as you hang up the phone, you're going to, the person that's available is going to ring, and they can answer it. So
they set the number of seats that it can ring into, and they pay based on the number of seats.
Exactly. It's based on how many phones or how many users, rather than how many phone lines. You literally can just have, one phone line for your entire not franchise company, but your entire headquarters.
Right.
And whenever that call comes in, you can say, hey, I want to ring floor number 1 first, and then floor number 2 second, floor number 3. We can do it however you want, or we can ring everybody's phones at the same time. Or you can just have the gatekeeper, so to speak, that answers all the calls, and then will transfer calls accordingly with that one phone number. And you would never have a busy signal.
Right.
But yeah, when you deal with phone lines, old school, and you only have 2 phone lines, and I'm on one line, you're on one line, and somebody else calls, you're going to get a busy signal.
Right. Yeah. So what do you think is the most, other than porting numbers, what else is misunderstood about using a phone system like you've got? Because I think a lot of them don't realize how it can transition across devices, right? Or availability because of apps, that you're not welded to the spot.
Right. Yeah, you're right. There's a lot of people out there, whenever I tell them what I do, and I'm like, I do business phone systems, I do VoIP phone systems, and they're like, well, I don't need that, I use my cell phone. And I'm like, well, that's precisely the reason why you do need me, because most people, they don't want to carry around a business phone and a personal phone. I did that for a little while, and I thought I was really cool, and then I realized that was not for me.
Right.
One phone is good enough.
Yep.
But no, they don't realize that you can download an app on your cell phone or on your laptop, and you get full functionality as you would have the paperweight on your desk.
Well, you probably
goes
get
around
more
with you everywhere.
You probably get more functionality actually with all the options, especially like you're saying, integrated
easier
CRM, do a bunch of different stuff. Like I have my phones here in Nashville. If I'm not available at my desk or on my phone, if I'm doing a meeting or a podcast and a client wants to call me, I want them to get answered, right? I want them to get the help they need. So my phone rings over into Wichita, and they can still pull up everything and see everything that they need to be able to answer the question for the Nashville client, which is great. I love that my customers get better customer service.
Yeah, and something really cool that this is a feature that I always throw out just so that people understand that it's an option. We do this for all folks. So if you have like a call tree, like press 1 if you're an existing customer, press 2 if you're looking to open up a business line of credit. If, for instance, we can have that set up so that whenever they call, if they press 1 for, hey, I'm an existing customer, we can modify the caller ID so that the very first 3 letters that pop up are like, what would we do? CUS for existing customer.
Right.
And then so after it'll CUS, and then it'll have 615, whatever it may be. So whenever you see that call come through, you know that they pressed 1 because they're an existing customer.
Right.
Is that a huge thing? Maybe not, but it's just nice. It's an extra professional service. So you can call and you already know that, hey, this is an existing customer. It's not a brand new person that wants to open up an account. It's not somebody that has a problem with billing. You know that they're an existing customer, that, what have you.
Right.
It's extra. So one of the other features that we do is after hours. People don't like, if they're transitioning from a personal cell phone to working with us with an app. Usually that reason is, hey, I'm tired of getting phone calls at 11 o'clock at night simply to tell me, hey, I just want to let you know that I just submitted my application.
Right.
Like, all right, yeah, thanks. Now I'm going to go back to sleep now. So we set it up so that, you're on a schedule. So whatever those hours are, 8 to 5, then your phone's going to ring. If it's at, 7 o'clock at night when you're having dinner with your family, they're going to get an after hours message. Now, some people, there might be an actual emergency. What we do is we'll set up the call, press 1. Sorry, we're closed after hours. Press 1 if you'd like to leave a message in our general voicemail box, or press 2 if this is legitimately an emergency. And if it is, they press 2, it's going to show up EMG, their phone number, and then you can answer at that point.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just an extra layer of service. It separates your personal life from the work, and you are still very mobile. Like you said, right. You're not just attached to your desk phone. So we're able to help people no matter if it's just a small business of, 1, 2, 3 people that are just right now using their cell phone, or if it's, Nissan headquarters or, right. A nationwide company that has headquarters everywhere.
So that was my next question, what your sweet spot is, but basically you can help anybody from one employee up to 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 employees. You've got the ability. So any interesting stories that you've been doing this for a while, that, you know, something that's come up, just like a weird story or something that you'd like to share? You got one?
Sure, be happy to. I'm not going to mention any names,
sure,
because
we'll
it is what it is.
guilty.
But what I will say is there's phone systems out there. I've learned this. There's some that are classified as telecommunications companies.
Okay.
There's others that are classified as a software company. They get taxed differently. So what happens is you'll sign up for a particular service and you're like, okay, yeah, $20 per user. That's way better than $26 per user. I'm going to sign up with the $20 per user. Well, they don't tell you that they're going to get taxed differently. They don't tell you about the extra fees, all these things. And all of a sudden you get your first bill or your first, deduction from your bank account. Right. And you're like, whoa, I signed up for $230. Why is this $560? And then you start sifting through it and you're like, whoa. And then you call them up and you say, hey, so what's going on? I signed up for this, but it was that. And they're like, oh, well, we can't control the taxes and fees. So there are certain companies out there. Come talk to me and I'm happy to walk you through it and give you a little insight. But there are certain companies out there that are classified as telecommunications companies. They get taxed that way. And man, they price gouge like crazy for their fees because they can charge whatever they want to. I promise you that the E911 is not $70, $80, $90. But yeah, if you're one of those people that if you look at your itemized and it says $70, $80, $90, almost $100 for your E911, call me.
Well, I think that in every industry that I've ever participated in, there's always the inside scoop, right? There's always the secret menu, so to speak, that you can save money if you know. And a lot of times you don't know, right? And so having somebody in the know that can let you know, that's a lot of no's. I said
that was a lot of no's.
Yeah. Yeah.
As a business owner, it can be tiring paying cash for everything you need. Well, there's a better way. Introducing Trade Bank of Nashville. Our bartering service lets you exchange goods and services without the need for cash transactions. Trade Bank helps businesses like yours reduce expenses, bring in new business, and keep your cash where you need it most. Find out more and join our barter network today. Start getting what you need without paying cash, because sometimes barter is just smarter. Apply today at nashville.tradebank.com.
So, okay, so when you're not working, when you're not doing this stuff, which I'm sure you're doing it for people all over Middle Tennessee and other areas. I know you've got a couple of nice clients that I know that you're working with right now. I don't know if you can mention them or not, but what do you do when you're not working? Are you still playing music? Do you have a favorite musical instrument?
Oh, I would say I like guitar the best.
Okay.
I mean, it's difficult, but I do like that it's the mobility of it. You know, it's more difficult to carry around a piano or even a keyboard, and then speakers. Trumpet, I love trumpet, but goodness, it is an everyday activity. You have to play it every single day, which, hey, I love trumpet, but like I remember Professor Dr. Bach, when he would go on vacation, he was my professor. He would go on a vacation. He knew, all of his kids' family all knew that when he got up in the morning, he's going to put that mute in and he's going to go through, his some sort of warm up and exercise.
What do they call that? Like the fingering of the trumpet sort of thing. And the mute stops the noise?
Yeah, the mute stops the noise, and then he was just making sure that he didn't lose the muscles here.
Right.
If you stop playing for a day, even a day or two, like you suffer.
It makes a difference. Yeah.
It's almost like running marathons. Like if you miss a couple of days, like it takes a toll on you.
I've missed a couple of days of running marathon.
No, guitar is probably my favorite instrument if I had to choose one for sure. But I am still writing music though.
Oh, okay, cool. I was told when I got to Nashville that you had to have a hat and a guitar. Well, I'm halfway there. I got the hat. So I'm thinking of one of those blow up guitars from Dollar Tree or something. I'll walk on stage with that sometime. Hey, they told me I'm in Nashville. I need to have a guitar. But
we can find you a guitar, and then I can have we'll decorate it up for you, make it proper.
Yeah, thanks. We need a red, white, and blue guitar. I have no musical talent. The only time I have rhythm is when I tell a dad joke. I've got good rhythm when I tell a dad joke, but I
can vouch for that.
Yeah, thanks. I've got no rhythm. I've got no musical talent. I just, my kids make fun of me because I love listening to Weird Al. And I'll say, that song doesn't sound right. And they're like, Dad, that's the original song. How can you enjoy a Weird Al parody if you don't know the original song? And I don't know the original songs, very rarely. Like, what is it? Don McLean's Bye Bye America Pie, whatever. And they turned it into I'm a Jedi for Weird Al. I love I'm a Jedi, but I also happen to know that song because I love that song because our little diner we used to have in Australia where I would go eat, it was the longest song in the jukebox, right? So we had 20-cent pieces, not 25-cent pieces. So 20 cents, you go, okay, Dad gave me 20 cents. What's the longest playing song I can get? And you'd look at they'd all be looking at titles for a song they liked. I'm looking at what's the biggest bang for my buck? Oh, this one's 5 minutes and 21 seconds. Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know it, but yeah, that sounds good. And that was the song I would always play because it was the longest song I could find. Stupid reason to pick a song, but it's a good song. So, but I have no musical talent. Although, did I tell you my what do you get if you cross a brown cow and a brown chicken joke?
No.
Okay, it's the closest I come to music. Brown chicken, brown cow.
Nice.
That's it. That's going to be my dad joke of 2023. So that's my favorite one, and it always goes over well. So, okay, so you're installing phone systems, whether it be virtual or you probably still have. Do you still have desk model phones that you do? Okay.
Yes, and certain phone systems I prefer over others,
right?
With regards to their different phones. But yeah, I will. If they prefer to have a real physical phone, then we program it in the cloud still.
Right.
And they can either ship to me, and I can bring them to the office if they're local. I can have them drop shipped to their particular office as well. And even if they're, in California or some other state, far away from me, we can just have it drop shipped, and all they have to do is unbox them and plug them in, give them power or internet.
Yeah, and that's what I did with mine. I moved mine from Wichita down here and just had to plug them back in the way they went. Not that I necessarily like a desk phone. I probably, if I had it to do over, I'd just do on my computer. But, okay, so when we're not working, what are your hidden gems around Nashville? You've been here how long?
I originally moved here in 2001.
Okay, so you've been here a while. You went to England for a little bit. Did you play any cricket when you went to England?
No cricket. No. My only experience with cricket really was my aunt and uncle. Whenever I was like 5 years old, I remember the weird, I don't even know what all the stuff's called,
right.
But I remember they had it all set up, and I was like, this is weird putt-putting.
Yeah. That's funny. So what do you do? What are your hidden gems around Middle Tennessee that you like to talk about?
Okay, so
give us your first one. Yep.
Number one is Soy Bistro in Maryland Farms, Brentwood.
Okay.
So
it's owned by a friend of yours, is it?
Exactly. Yeah, a really good friend of mine, Kenji. Man, he is just an energy. Just if you ever go there, he'll probably be back there cooking, but say hello to him and he's going to turn around and man, there's something about him that just makes you feel special. And it's contagious. It just,
cool.
His
maybe
he'd be great.
He'd be a good guest for the show.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Remind me and I'll let him know.
Okay.
But yeah, that place, he's a great chef, great spot. And he's got great people that work there as well. Is
that just a little tiny place or is it
It is.
Okay.
It is. It's really right across the street from AC.
Okay.
The new Marriott place.
Okay, cool. Okay. Number two
is Bluefin sushi. So I have only been here.
Brentwood.
It is, yeah, right. It's right off of Church Street.
Okay.
So I've only been there a few times, but it literally, I was just driving down the road. I'm like, I want sushi. And so I just, grabbed my phone and punched it in. And I was like, oh, there's a place right here, because I've been to Peter's. I've been to whatever the other place is over there by Target. But I saw this one and I was like, let me go try this out, and as soon as I walk in, I sit down, open up the menu, and I'm like, this looks familiar. This is literally, they have to be intertwined in koi in some way, shape, or form. And I love koi. Like, it's one of my favorite places. And I always get the Bahamas Blue, I think is what it's called.
Koi's down off of 31, right? Down by.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Down by actually Target in Franklin. Yep.
Right. Yeah.
Gotcha. And no, that a lot of sushi places, they'll put like the imitation crab. This is like lump blue crab meat, and they don't hold back. Like, it's, you finish it off with a fork, and I feel really bad about that, but I mean, there's just lump crab meat all over the place. So it's delicious. So yeah, okay. That's my number 2.
Okay. And number 3?
Number 3 is, I don't know if this is appropriate for my hidden gem or not, but gosh. So I had low back pain for the longest time, sciatic nerve issues, and from injuries whenever I was younger. And I ran into this guy. His name's Dr. Kevin, and he's with Adisu Family Chiropractic. And man, whenever I first met him, because I bet I've been to 10 different chiropractors. And so we became pretty decent friends at first. And he was like, hey, you need to come check us out. We're grand opening, you can be one of our first, customers, patients. I'm like, all right. So get in there. And, he starts asking me questions. I was like, all right, Kevin, so seriously, yeah, I know we're good friends now, but I want you to know that you got your work cut out for you, because I have my guy in Bellevue, and the only reason I don't go to him all the time is because, it's a bit of a trek for me to go out there.
Right.
But he does really good. So, but I'm going to give you a shot. And man, it blew me away. Like, my wife, she used to complain because we'd sit down and watch TV, and I would be like, like massaging and stretching and whatnot, and just seemingly like agitated. And after I went to Dr. Kevin for maybe 3 weeks, she finally, my wife was like, you're not doing the whole fidgety thing anymore. Like, what's going on? I'm like, I didn't even realize it, but I was like, I guess it's Dr. Kevin. Like, I think he's fixed me. Wow. And yeah, it really did blow me away. But he specializes in pediatric care, and he takes care of everybody, including me. I'm a child at heart, so I guess that works.
Well, that's what I was going to say is, some of us that act like 12-year-olds probably can go see Kevin because, and full disclosure, I actually use him too. So I'm a patient at Adisu. Although Google and me do not agree on pronunciation of Adisu Chiropractic. When I'm in a part of town I don't know how to get out of to get to Adisu, and so he says, "Well, try saying Adasu or Ad-a-su, and it will sort of convert it." He says the Aussie accent's a bit of a problem though. So, but you're exactly right. I went to Kevin. I basically crawled in there one day, and he's a client of mine through my barter exchange. And I'm like, Kevin, I know you normally just deal with pediatrics, but, can you see me? He's like, yeah, come on, old man. He didn't say that. I just made that up. But he takes me into the room and fixes me. So he says, oh, you need to come back for a few more times. I'm like, here we go. It's the rest of my life. I'm going to go to a chiropractor. He's like, no. We'll do this assessment. We'll see where you're at, and then we'll do a plan and go from there. And I said, okay, fine. He's just so good at what he does. He's the best chiropractor. I mean, I've got a lot of good chiropractors that are friends that I've been to that do a great job, but none of them at this level. This guy is just amazing. He can send us a big fat check later after bragging on him so much.
Right.
But he is. And So it got to the point, and I'd heard that this had happened, not with him, but with other chiropractors, and I had never experienced it myself, but I'm diabetic. And so I went to him, and then my wife and I went out to do some shopping at Trader Joe's, and I'm getting a bit fidgety, and my alarm goes off for my blood sugar being low. Well, I hadn't taken any insulin or anything, and so my blood sugar had dropped below to where I set the alarm. So it's like around 70 for me. I don't like to go lower than that. Some people can handle it down to 50. I can't. So it got down to 70 I normally sit around 150. And so I called up Kevin. I said, hey, is this normal? He's like, well, it can happen. You need to watch for it. I'm like, man, if you can help me lower my blood sugar, I'm going to be there every day. He says, you don't need to come every day. But it's just, he's been brilliant for me. And I think he's got a great office. And when you see some of those kids that he's working on and the difference, the stories, you know, that their mums and dads say as we're sitting in the waiting room, the stories that I'm hearing is just amazing. So yeah, I like that as a
really
hidden
is.
gem. I like that.
Yeah. And another thing is, especially people, I feel like chiropractors, sometimes they get a bad rap, and he's not your typical chiropractor that is like just cracking things just to crack them because, you know, it makes us feel good or it makes you feel like he's doing something. He's very specific and intentional, like only going to adjust this one thing or this on just one side and going to let it kind of work itself out. And because he said sometimes, you know, if you adjust this side and then you adjust the other side, it just undoes what he just did over here. So, and I get that. It makes sense. But I've been going to chiropractors for years where they'll adjust this side and adjust that side. And and I guess they're just undoing what they just did, and which is why you keep going back and you never really get better.
Exactly. And I told him one of the things I don't like is I don't like the big neck cracking chiropractors. I just, it's not my bag. And he said, well, look, he said, you're talking about some neck issues as well as some back issues. He said, we're going to have to do some of that, but I'll tell you exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it and how I'm doing it. And, you know, if it's a problem, we'll stop, but I really think you need this. I'm not saying that he didn't get the job done, but it seemed a lot less rough than what I've had other people do, like just about rip my neck off, you know, and he didn't, you know, I felt comfortable. It was all about feeling comfortable with him, right? I think that, okay, I told you I don't want to do this. I'll protest against it. And then he does it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that was okay. Like there wasn't, you know, like the other guys that have done it in other cities. But so, yeah, anyway, enough talking about Kevin. He's got enough free publicity. He can pay me. He can pay me to be on the podcast advertising if he wants. You hear that, Kevin? No, we love you, Kevin. So him and his wife, they got a cute little one and a nice little office there on Seaboard Lane. It's cool. Okay. You got a favorite dad joke?
Oh, man, you catching me off guard. I don't, but I bet you do.
I do have a favorite dad joke, yes. Yeah, but they've all heard all my favorite dad jokes. And so the brown chick, brown cow is my favorite one right now. That's been a lot of fun. You know, I had trouble with one the other day I went to a fast food restaurant. It was really good. I'm not going to tell you the name. But it wasn't McDonald's or those guys. It was one that I didn't think would be good food, but it was really good food. And so I should say their name, but I'm not saying their name because I'm going to pick on one of their employees. So I came up with this one, and it's, what's the difference between ignorance and apathy? I don't know. And frankly, I don't care. That's meant to be funny. So I say that to this kid, and he says, yeah, that's me. Some days I don't know, and other days I don't care. And I'm like, well, that's a downer. That's not a good positive answer to that. So that joke is back in the vault, because although I thought it was funny because I'm a positive person, right? You know? Yeah. So it was unexpected. And then the other one at a different location, these two young girls, they're like, oh, tell us a dad joke. Tell us a dad joke. I normally wear a little badge that says, ask me for a dad joke. And I said, okay, I love the way the earth rotates. It really makes my day. The earth rotates once a day, right? You know, and unless I caught you off guard with that one, you didn't know it either. But this,
I did not.
Okay. Well, fair enough. But to me, you know, you weren't paying attention in school. You'd rather be playing music. That's what it was.
That's probably right. You're not wrong.
So, and then the other one was, I dreamt I was a muffler last night and woke up exhausted. And
that is good.
She goes, I don't know what a muffler is. Isn't that something you wear in the cold? Like, is that a muffler? I'm like, well, that's also a muffler, but a muffler on a car. She goes, I drive an electric car. I don't think they have mufflers. I'm like,
oh man,
good point. That's a good point. I don't know. Folks, write in the comments. Do electric cars have mufflers? And yes, I know I could Google it, but I want some interaction. So feel free when you see this, write in the. Do you think electric cars have mufflers? I don't think they do. But they don't need an exhaust system if there's no internal combustion, if there's no burning of fossil fuels.
They actually, the first electric cars didn't make any noise, and they were actually running into people, pedestrians.
Oh,
so
really?
They are intentionally making them make noise now.
Okay, growly sounds. Yeah, because they're as quiet as whispering death as they glide across the parking lot at Publix and Kroger. You're talking about how we have a few of road rages. I find it interesting that when you walk across the parking lot to go to any big box store or supermarket, everybody's so nice and they wave you on and blah, blah, blah. But then when you get on the highway with them, these are the same people that let you walk across. They stop 400 miles back to let you walk across, but they won't give you an inch on the interstate. What is up with that? I don't know what the answer is with that. Hey, mate, It's been so good having you on the show. I've got a last question for you.
Okay.
What's something that when you're interviewed or when you're having a discussion or doing a one-to-one or networking with somebody, what's something you always wish you were asked that you're not asked about? So in other words, something that you love talking about, but nobody ever wants to give you the time of day to talk about it.
Goodness.
That's a hard question, isn't it?
It is difficult, I guess.
Like for me, I always want them to ask me about cricket because I could talk their ear off about cricket. I love talking about cricket, but nobody wants to know about cricket. So that is my thing. Or dad jokes. Like I could tell them 400 dad jokes, right? They're like,
honestly, I think the answer probably is I love talking religion.
Okay.
I love talking about God and the Bible. And it's something that's kind of people stray away from talking about, especially in the business world.
Yeah, but not in the South. The first question I got is, what church do you go to?
Well, I
love that about the South. I'm like,
right.
You know what? We're looking for one. Well, can you go? You can come to this one. You can go to that one. So in my BNI group, I got first invited by one of the guys in my networking group, and he invited me to go to his church. And I'm like, great. And I fell in love with it, right? So I grew up non-Christian. And I think there's a misconception for those of us that are non-Christian and those of us that are Christian, that Christians are perfect. Well, the more we know about Christianity, the more we realize we're not perfect. They're all judgy. No, they're not. They're judging themselves. They know that there's three fingers pointed back at them when there's one pointed at you.
Right.
It's the different types of people, but they have to understand that we're all human beings and we all fall short, right? So we could do a whole podcast just talking about, and I'm not saying,
let's do it.
Yeah, not just religion, but
yeah,
the fact is that just like parking yourself in the garage doesn't make you a car, parking yourself at church doesn't make you a Christian either. Right.
Exactly.
So, or however that analogy goes, you know what I meant, if you stand in a garage, that doesn't make you a car. If you stand in church, that doesn't make you a Christian. Right. So I think it's my favorite. Do you have a favorite Bible verse?
Oh, man.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Not a favorite. I do love that if you bring up a child in the way of Christ, then when he grows older, he will not stray away. I love that concept. And I think it's amazing that is, I do in every aspect. I look at friends that I know and families that I know, and it stands true. I feel like people will tend to stray away for a time, but then they'll come back.
Right.
And I think that's a really cool verse. There's also in Proverbs that it's better to be sleep on the rooftop than to sleep inside with an angry woman.
I'm not even going to touch that one. Thank you very much. My favorite, I like the one where Jesus is asked, about the commandments, which one of them is the most important. He says, well, there's basically two things that matter. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and love your neighbor as yourself, and there's that means, yes, your fellows in Christ. Yes, your brothers and sisters in Christ. Absolutely. But it also means the neighbor next door, the neighbor in the next country, the neighbor across the world. It means love your neighbor as yourself. Well, I think one of our biggest problems of why we have trouble loving people from other countries and other environments is we don't love ourselves, right? How many times do you hear people negative self-talk? I've been guilty of that in the past. It's taken me 56 years, and I still fall into that trap of negative self-talk. So I really love that idea of love your neighbor as yourself. Who's your neighbor? Everybody's your neighbor. But that doesn't mean you ignore your brother and sister in Christ. You love them too. Sometimes you go to church and you wonder if you're being judged by the little old lady in the front row because you're not wearing the right clothes or not sitting in the right spot or not saying the right words. No, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. You're there for God. You're not there for somebody else's acknowledgement of how you're dressed or what you look like or who you are. If some of us wear our sin on the outside, some of us wear our sin on the inside, but guess what? We're all sinners, right? So when this church goes through this mode of we're not tolerant of such and such, or we're not accepting of this, we can love the sinner without loving the sin, right? Love the sinner, hate the sin. So for me, it's very basic. I can get along with just about anybody if they are a good person. And what I mean by that is we're flawed humans. We're all flawed, right?
Right.
But are your intents and your motives, are they of a pure nature? Are you trying to do the right thing? We're going to fall short sometimes, we're going to make mistakes. But my favorite verse, and it's a business related verse, is Ecclesiastes 11:2. And it says in NIV, if you have 7 ventures, then have 8, because you never know when disaster may strike. And my wife says, yes, but it doesn't say 15. Because I'm a serial entrepreneur, and opportunity. There's opportunities to help people everywhere, right? And if you help people by providing a product or a service that they need or want, then you should be compensated for that. And that's fine. I have nothing wrong with profit. I can help more people with money than I can help without money, right? I'm not striving for money. It doesn't bother me. I need enough to pay the bills. I need enough to tithe. I need enough to be able to supply my friends when they need help. I need to be able to do that sort of stuff. But I love the idea of having multiple streams of income and multiple businesses. And so when my wife says, yes, but it doesn't say 15, I say, well, it could be a faulty translation. It could be maybe it means 15. And I get the rolled eyes, right? Like,
right. Yep.
But it's
I'm familiar with those.
Yeah, I'm married to the most wonderful wife in the world. When I finally said to her we should get married, I said, look, you are the smartest woman I know, and you've got great taste in men. And she rolls her eyes. And she's like, if that's a proposal, that's not very romantic. And I said, anyway, there's a whole story for that, which is available on Facebook. I've cut a video on that. Relationships take work. How long you been married for?
4
years. Okay, good. I got a couple on you. I got 33 and a half. So I tell everybody that my wife, we've both been married for 33. I've had 33 enjoyable married years. She's probably had 32 enjoyable married years. And the first year I missed home so much. I missed Australia. There was no internet. It's 1990. There's no internet. There's no Australian foods. You can't buy it anywhere. You can't get on Amazon and order your Vegemite, So speaking of, I've got my Vegemite crackers right here, so that's for after the show. So I was the worst husband to live with for the first year, I think, because I bitched and moaned about everything, but now I wouldn't trade it for the world. She is the most wonderful wife in the world, and that's trademarked, but it is a Creative Commons license, Jason. So if you want to start using it, I'd highly recommend that you do. But my Facebook page for her is Alice M. Fox, most wonderful wife in the world. So I've got a little Facebook page that I post stuff on.
You got points for that, I'm sure, right?
She didn't know about it for the longest time, and then somebody walked into where she works. She's a pharmacy manager for Kroger, and at the time she was with Walgreens up in Wichita, and they walked in and they said, "Oh, did you see what Edward posted? It was so sweet." She goes, "I was just on break. He didn't post anything." "Oh yeah, on your most wonderful wife in the world page." She goes, "What?" That was a good week.
Yeah, I'll bet so.
Yeah.
I'll bet
Anyway.
so.
Hey man, great. Thanks for being on the show. I'd love to be updated down the road. You know, when you got some cool stuff, more cool stuff happening and things are cooking and you want to brag about yourself for a bit, come on the show. Let us know what you're doing. One last question. I feel like Columbo. Every time I start to walk away, I come back with another question. What do you have a favorite nonprofit or a favorite community outreach program that's working right now?
I do. Rescue One Global. That's
Okay.
my number one. They fight human trafficking. They are a fantastic organization. If you're not familiar with them, check them out.
Are they Nashville based?
They are. Yeah, they're based.
Okay.
The founder lives here in Nashville. He's constantly on the road though, and he's been helping out over in what am I thinking about? Ukraine.
Okay.
Recently. And but no, they're a great organization. They don't just rescue people and then say good luck. They rescue them and they bring them into a safe place away from everything,
right,
and help them rehabilitate, learn life skills. Because some of these folks, they've never went and opened a bank account. They've
right,
never written a check before. And they could be 30, 40 years old,
right,
and have no idea. So they go through, teach them how to sew, teach them all the things. Right. And I think it's amazing what they do and how they are able to help people. And really, once they have graduated, they're actually living life like they should have for all those years. And they're my favorites. And they will be having a gala in February. I don't know the exact date.
Lost my pen.
I'd have to look it up. And that's probably going to take me too much time.
Give me the name one more time.
A gala in February.
Okay.
I'm sorry?
Give me the name one more time.
Rescue One Global.
And is one spelled out or the number?
It's the number, I'm pretty sure.
Rescue One Global. And the gala you said was when, you think?
It's in February.
Okay. Sweet. I'm going to Australia for the month of December, but I'll be back in January. So, Jason, good catching up with you, and thanks for being on the show.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. We'll see you.
All right, bye-bye.
This is the Nashville 2 podcast with your host, Edward Fox.